All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Katie Monahan, and I'm a communications strategist here at the Ohio Arts Council, and I'm pleased to welcome you to today's webinar, Help, I Have to Plan an Event. Before we get started, there are just a few housekeeping items to go over. First, everyone tuning in today is in listen-only mode, and this just helps to cut down on feedback issues during the presentation. So if you do have a question, feel free to type it into the Q&A box in your control panel, and we'll do our best to incorporate the questions as they roll in throughout the webinar, and we'll be sure to leave plenty of time at the end for questions as well. Next, if you have audio issues or trouble connecting, we recommend refreshing your browser, and if that doesn't work, try logging off and logging back in. And finally, today's webinar is being recorded, and we'll post the recording on our YouTube channel by the end of business on Monday, March 2nd. So if you aren't able to catch the entire live session or you'd like to listen again, you can find it there. All right, that's it for housekeeping. So now I'd like to welcome today's presenters, Gabrielle Saphira and Jane DeAngelo of OhioDance, who are here to talk all things event planning, and they're going to help us through the process of building an event, attracting an audience, and making the most of every precious dollar. So Gabrielle, Jane, thank you so much for joining us today. I'll let you two take it from here.
Thank you, Katie. So I'm Jane DeAngelo. I'm going to start, and I just want to introduce myself and let you know that I have worked in event planning with OhioDance since I started with the organization in 2003. We've planned many events, including our annual festival, which serves over 400 individuals each year. I was on the steering committee for the National Dance USA conference that was held in Cleveland last year. So I've done a few conferences and events in my career. And I'll move on and let you hear from Gabrielle.
Hi, I'm Gabrielle Saphira, and this is my 7th year on the OhioDance Board of Trustees. I am a Columbus City Schools dance teacher, and I have been the co-chair for the festival, the OhioDance Festival Committee, for 3 years of my term now. So planning the festival has been a part of my work for OhioDance for the last few years. And beyond that, I have been involved in numerous Columbus-wide dance events, festivals, conferences, performances, concerts, etc. So the mission of OhioDance is we are a statewide organization that inclusively supports the diverse and vibrant practice of dance of all cultures and for all capabilities. And OhioDance started in 1976, and our first festival was held at Kenyon College in Gambier, Ohio in 1981. And our first guest speaker was the publisher of Dance Magazine at the time, William Como. And since then, we have had various widely known dance artists, performers, choreographers, writers of dance as guests for our festival.
So OhioDance presents the arts to the community through festivals and conferences, our virtual dance collection, performance opportunities, educational resources, networking opportunities, newsletters, and dance artist services. The organization pursues its goals through the contributions of a 30-member board of directors representing dance around the state. And now we'd like to do a little poll for you all, and just to get some feedback to see what your interests are. So let me ask you the first question. As a planner, what factors are most important during a well-organized event? And the choices here: sticking to a timeline, funding, marketing.
All right. Oh, let's see. Looks like funding and marketing are very popular for this one.
Right.
Give people maybe 5 more seconds to participate. All right. Yeah, it looks like funding and marketing are our top priorities there.
Great. Well, we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But number 2 question, think about the worst event you've attended. What went wrong? So the answers would be no one greeted you, the person in charge was hiding, AV issues, sound or video didn't work, everything ran behind schedule.
Oh, it's looking like all 3 of these options are equally egregious, equally problematic. They're all pretty big issues, yeah.
Yeah, they are pretty egregious.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Move on.
Yeah.
Okay. So number 3 in the last question, what's the number 1 thing you want participants to take away from their experience? So the answers would be inspiring ideas or concepts, new connections, networking, or excitement to return.
We'll give people just a few more seconds to participate here. All right, it looks like excitement to return is our top scorer here, and then inspiring ideas and new connections are tied, not far behind. Yeah, excitement to return seems to be a pretty top takeaway that people are looking for.
Nice. Great. All right. Well, thank you for joining in on our poll today. I want to go on. This is a photo from one of our early festivals in 1988, which was rather large. It was held at the Ohio Theater in Columbus and the Galbraith Studios. We brought in guest artist Chuck Davis from Durham, North Carolina, and his company, the African American Dance Ensemble, performed. Since 1981, the festival has traveled the state, going to colleges, universities, and schools from north to south, east to west. Due to convenience, funding, and location, since 2011, we have held this event in Columbus, and now at times travel in the fall with a mini festival.
Our OhioDance Festival spans a 3-day weekend. And over that weekend, we offer, the bulk of our festival is offering classes and workshops. So in any year, we offer 40 or more classes, and those range from ballet to wellness classes and somatics practices, musical theater, different pedagogy classes, character, we have modern and contemporary, West African. So the range of styles of dance is wide. And each year, depending on our theme, we try to highlight certain areas in that theme. So there are different offerings every year in classes and in workshops. The video, we have video for you of our classes and our workshops, but those aren't available right now. So please see our website and also our Vimeo and YouTube channels, because those will show you the examples of past classes and workshops that we've offered. Moving on. And within the 3-day span of classes and workshops, we have 2 highlighted concerts. On Friday morning, we have a young audience concert and artist concert for K-12 participants. So this is statewide applicants that adjudicate their work, and those students will perform for other young audience members and public. People from the public may attend as well. to show their pieces, whatever the choreographer has done for that year. It might be a student work, it might be a professional work, but the performers are all K-12 dancers, which is pretty remarkable experience to be a part of. And then on Saturday of our festival, we hold our professional concert. And that concert highlights our host for the year or our guest artist for the year. So this year in 2020, we will have James Gregg, who is an artist from Los Angeles, who combines contemporary and breakdance together. So we're really excited to have him and his work. But the Saturday concert highlights the main artist and then also other local, statewide performers and professionals as well. And these two events are really communal, engaging, and they also are opportunities for the public to come into OhioDance, into the world of OhioDance, if they're not already a member, and it gives us an opportunity to reach out into the larger Columbus community or statewide community as well. And moving on to our partners of OhioDance. So this is, I'm gonna talk about this specifically for our festival. One of the first items that we do is we select a site, and for OhioDance for a while the key to selecting that site was to save money. So at first we were getting venues for free, and that was an agreed upon arrangement between the two parties, OhioDance and whatever the venue was. Currently, and most recently, we have been having our festival in Columbus. It is a central location in our state, and we hold it at OhioDance, or at Ohio State University. And this is really a win-win for both of us, the Ohio State Dance Department and OhioDance, because there are students there, and we have young people coming in, and the space is adequate, more than adequate, and the cost is reasonable, and they have all of the audio capabilities, AV technology that we would need, and they also have a lot of swing spaces. So for us, we don't just need dance studios. We do need a lot of dance studios. We use about 6 studios at any given time during the festival, but we also need a theater space. We need ample bathrooms, restroom facilities. We need dressing room areas. We need communal lunchroom space. And Ohio State University seems to have all of those things. That's why we keep coming back and they keep inviting us back. So this is a key factor for us. We have held the conference or the festival in other locations in the state, but we seem to be really happy with a partnership at Ohio State, so we keep going back. The other important thing for us is parking, and also determining, because we've run into this in the past, is also determining whether or not there are larger Columbus community events happening. So a couple of years ago, we had a marathon happening, the Columbus, I don't know what it's called. Quarter marathon. The Columbus Marathon, quarter marathon was happening. So there were road closures, which we knew about, but it's just important to know what events, larger events, whether it's a concert, a football game for us here at OSU, whatever it might be that could cause a roadblock or some sort of organizational consideration. So those are things that we're talking about partners. That's what we're talking about for the festivals, our partner with our venue. And then the last thing I would say is we also really discuss with them their policies in terms of maintenance, their studio rules, whatever it looks like coming in and out of this space. Is there security issues, or do we need to be aware of security issues, or whatever those things might be? What are the hours of the space? So those are things, those are conversations and dialogues that we have yearly, because things might change year to year with Ohio State. Are there any questions? I'm going to stop right now and ask if there are any questions thus far.
Sure. I actually have a question for you. can you talk a little bit about, how you ended up approaching the university? Did you look at other locations too? Did you do like an RFP process, or can you talk a little bit about that?
So a lot of times, I'm going to talk about it, Jane, because a lot of times people reach out to me. When we traveled around the state, people would say, we'd love to have the festival here. You know, we've gone to Ohio University, we've been at Oberlin, we've been at Ohio Northern, we've been at Playhouse Square in Cleveland. So we've been approached, Akron, University of Akron, we've been approached to have the festival there over the years. Then Ballet Met in 2011 asked us to have the festival there. And then they said, this worked out really well. Can you come back? So we did, and we stuck with that for 7 years. But then while we were at Ballet Met, people would ask us to do something in the fall. And so then we would travel in the fall to have some, maybe a smaller event, but make it into a festival, but on a smaller scale in the fall. Then one year Ballet Met we had a conflict of date. So somebody suggested we reach out to OhioDance. I did. They said yes. And it worked out so well for everybody that they asked us to come back. They said, we'd like to steal you from Ballet Met. But we'd like to have you do it again, because they did a tour for the pre-professional students. So several of those students got to see the facilities, and it made them encouraged to apply for college there. So yeah, so it really is. It's not too hard to find people that are interested in having our festival, to tell you the truth. For the most part. I mean, I haven't run into any roadblocks yet, and hopefully.
Jane, is it just a simple email usually reaching out? If they're not asking us, are we reaching out just via email?
Email or phone calls, and then we have a face-to-face conversation. Meeting. Did that answer you?
You did. That was great, and I'm glad you guys have found such a good home and such a solid partnership. I think that's one of the foundations, as you said, of having a great event, is being able to have those reliable partners.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Okay, I'm going to talk about legal contracts. Fun, no. Very important, though, to have this. If you have a lawyer, or if you need a lawyer, definitely do reach out and have a lawyer draw these up for you. For us, we want to have a contract with the venue, so that includes the cost, the times that it's available, what are the restrictions, who's responsible for cleaning, security, things like that. Also, it's usually spaces require that you have $1 million policy. So we do have that. And in the era of awareness against silence of misuse of power, most insurance companies now require that background checks are obtained and release forms are signed. And for us, having teachers, since we have teachers working with students as young as 13, we ask them to sign not only publicity and injury releases, but also policies on anti-bullying and physical and mental abuse, along with a background check. And our choreographers have a separate contract with all the details of their times and schedule. Musicians, we have an agreement with musicians. We have musicians accompany for classes, and as you see in that photo, for sometimes performances. And then our participants that attend, they sign a publicity and injury release. And then we also, again, with the climate now, and with insurance companies being more stringent on rules, we have board members and volunteers in hallways, checking on classes and bathrooms to oversee that the event runs safely and without incident. It is also important to have a plan in place in case an incident does arise. What steps will you take, and have this written in advance?
Okay, our timeline for planning this event. So before I dive into the timeline, I would like to say that OhioDance, the board, is, I guess, grouped into committees. I'm the co-chair of the festival committee, and then there are other committees: marketing, education, membership, and those committees are all part of those own avenues, like I just said, but they all take a part in the festival as well. So when we talk about the timeline, each of those committees is responsible for certain things within the timeline. So we start planning about 18 months ahead for our spring festival. And within that 13 months ahead, we think of the theme for the following year. And the festival committee does kind of throw out those ideas, and then everyone on the board and Jane and the executive committee vote on what the theme should be. And then from there, things sort of click into place. The summer before the event, so we have our festival in April, and so in the summer before, we send all of the media releases, all of the blasts to newspaper, whatever it is here in Columbus, all of the websites that the state, yes, the state, Jane is telling me the state. And we also, right after summer in the fall, we send a submission for teachers and performers. And then after that, when we get those submissions, we make those decisions, and when we start organizing the actual how the festival is going to go, the days, what we need on each day. Fridays, always the young audience and artist concert, and then classes in the evening, and then the next day we start early in the morning with all our classes. So the timeline, kind of once you have all those things in place, what you need, if you work backwards, you can have it lined up for the day you are opening your event. So that's how we do it here at OhioDance.
All right, let's talk about funding. So first, you want to research funders and check deadlines and keep a good calendar. So start 18 months ahead to plan for deadlines. If you're looking at a grant that you're planning to apply, and it's your first time applying, even if it's a repeat time, but you have significant changes in what you're doing, then I recommend scheduling a meeting with a funder to see if you are headed in the right direction. You don't want to waste your time. So get those things checked out before you even start to write. Then when you do submit the application, of course, you want to submit it on time. I always recommend submitting 1 or 2 days ahead. If there is the ability to write a draft, do that. You'll get valuable feedback. In fact, many funders now require a draft first. So always check that deadline too. Then keep your proposal realistic, as you want to be able to accomplish what you say. And remember, the final report needs to match your original application. So you don't want to make it goals that you're not going to be able to achieve. If funded, make sure to invite your funders to your event. If you receive state funding, thank your legislators. If local funding, thank city council or local governments. Donors, we seek donors for our scholarships, such as need-based and a monetary scholarship to a graduating high school senior dance student. So let donors know where their dollars will go. This may make them more interested in giving. And sponsorships, look to local stores, perhaps ones that you shop at, or restaurants in the area where you are having your event. Ask for advertisements and or product donations. Here you see we did receive a donation once from Capizio for ballet slippers, and we were able to give them to a lot of different studios throughout Ohio. One studio thanked us from Athens, Factory Street, so that was really lovely. So we were able to post this photo. So anybody have any questions at this point on anything we've talked about so far?
Yeah, so going back to talking about the different committees and their involvement in the planning of the festival, do you have any advice for somebody who maybe is part of a smaller shop and doesn't have the manpower to have a bunch of different committees like that? Do you have any advice for maybe how they might, take on that load or maybe outsource some of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I'm the only staff person, but I do have 30 board members. So that's the key, really. It's a working board. Try to find more board members. There's one, I do advise that. Some people advise small boards, but for us, it really works. So I guess that's one thing. Maybe try to keep looking for people in the community that might be interested in volunteering and helping you out. But I think if you're doing it yourself or with a very small group, then you just need to keep your calendar. You need to keep your dates and set those down and stick to them. And, a good planning calendar is really important. So I think that's the advice if you don't have a lot of help, that you just have to, I'm the type that loves grids and calendars and but yeah, and memory is really important. So I don't know, does that help at all?
Yeah, I think that was helpful, and I totally feel you on the grids and the calendars. I think, definitely staying organized. I think you had a really important part there, and I also like the point that you made about potentially enlisting volunteers too, to kind of help out with some of the heavy lifting there too. So thank you.
I want to say one other thing. There are internships, so we do get college interns, and they do receive credit through us. So that's also a good thing to look into. There are a lot of local colleges, and you can reach out to them and say you need some support. And they may only come 3 hours a week, but that can be really invaluable too.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's a fantastic idea. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So marketing media contacts are important. Prepare media lists. And in Columbus, we have the Columbus Arts Marketing Association. There is a minimum membership fee to join, but each year they provide a media list, and they have great speakers and events. So I really recommend that if you're in Cleveland. If you're not Columbus. If you're not in Columbus, then see if you have any marketing associations in your local area to see what they have available. Columbus also has Arts Makes Columbus. If you receive funding through the Greater Columbus Arts Council, you can post your information on the Arts Makes Columbus website. And this feeds to many outlets for maximum exposure. Social media posts are important. Make sure you're posting often and use different types of posts. Use compelling photos and short videos. I was just in a marketing session yesterday with Capacity Interactive, and they were talking about you can make a simple video for Instagram or Facebook just using photographs, 2 or 3. You may know this already, but it's always important to mention it. And just something like that can be really interesting and just make people more interested in coming. Also, making phone calls. Sometimes it's necessary to invite legislators or funders to your event. A personal reach really does make a difference. And press releases, prepare those and send them out early. Keep them brief. It is not necessary to give every detail, but just give some important details. Articles, it's nice to, if you're able to get some articles into some news outlets. Again, in Columbus with Columbus Art Marketing Association, they help with this media exposure. You can sign up to write an article for local online news like Columbus Underground and City Pulse, or radio spots on 102.5 with Brian Phillips. Like you can see, I had a few of those. And also we were able to get a chance to be on Fox 28 morning show, and one of our board members, Marlene Lieber, who was also teaching a class, was on this program, and she taught them a chair dance. So that was pretty fun.
Okay. I am going to talk about volunteers for our festival. So your question about if there is not a large board, how do we work with a small group? So we do, even though we do have a 30-person board at OhioDance, we still ask for volunteers for our festival. So because we have held the festival at Ohio State, a lot of students that are students in the dance department at Ohio State are our volunteers. And like Jane was also saying, those students can earn credit for their class or internship or independent study by working on a festival as well, if they do the work to get Jane's signature and apply for that in their department. So we do ask for volunteers, and it's not just Ohio State students, but we ask our board members to be at the festival and sign up for time slots. What's worked well for us is we create a sign-up genius, and we send that link to the board members, and we just have, you can set those up by times and slots, and you can set them up a lot of different ways, but ours is set up by what days and times we need people to fill those times, and board members can sign up to attend and be there to support whatever's needed at the time of the festival. And then we also open it up to community members as well. So you can be someone in the public but just knows about the festival and ask to volunteer if you would like. That gives you the opportunity to observe class or attend the concert or whatever it is. So we, for our volunteers, because of the part going back to like the legal aspect, we do have a meeting with our volunteers about what is expected during the festival. We give them each instructions, they have a special lanyard, and we make sure that everyone knows what they are to do, their job, their duty during the 3-day span. That's it for volunteers. And then sort of piggyback on that, send invitations to the general public for our festival. So one of the things that we do for the festival is you can come and observe, you can volunteer, and you can also apply to get a scholarship, to receive a scholarship, whether needs-based or monetary, and you don't have to be sort of tied to a studio or a school. You don't, like, that's part of what we want as our mission, is to invite people in that maybe don't have access to their own dance studio, or maybe they're not in a K-12 setting where there's dance available to them. So you can just be anyone and come in and take class or come in and work in the festival in some capacity. So we do send invitations, and offer scholarships, offer the opportunity to observe, like I was saying. And it's just, that's for us is a great way to get people that are new, maybe don't know about OhioDance, to come in. Our social media is also a big part of that invitation, and making sure that people know that we are inclusive and there's diverse things happening within OhioDance in terms of classes and inviting in people with all capabilities. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I will let you know that this photo is from another event we've been involved in. This is from the Bread Festival in 2016. We worked with Dublin Arts Council to provide performances and teaching to the community. Here we had Chasson West African Dance Institute teaching and performing. And so it's not only the festival, we do a few other events that we organize during the year. And so here we're going to talk about, as we wrap up, talk about evaluation. And I think number one is to make sure you're looking at your questions that you ask each year, see if they're really relevant still, or if you need to change them. and gear them toward different audiences. For us, we have a variety of surveys that we compose. One is to our participants, one for our choreographers, one for teachers, and one for the audience. And we do these in an online format as well as a paper format. We have both because people are geared toward different ways of filling these out, so that seems to work. We also offer incentives for folks to fill out the survey. We ask them to give us their name, address, email, phone number, and then they're entered into a drawing to attend the next year's festival for free. So it's a nice incentive. And make sure you're tallying your survey results and share them. Share them with your board, your funders, your partners, whoever you feel necessary to share with them. Share them with. And that really sums up what we have to talk about today. Here we just have some of our funders and supporters and some of our community engagement partners. And here we have some of our social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. We also have Vimeo. And we have our names and email and my phone number if you want to reach out to us. So I think that pretty much wraps it up for us. Are there any questions?
Sure. So somebody is asking, do you have a template or a document that you could provide or that you could share with attendees that has a timeline that you use or a sample of the timeline that you use? Or if you don't have that, do you have a good recommendation for a resource?
You know, I do have a timeline that I could share. Sure, I can do that.
Yeah, what we can do is Jane, I can have you email that to me and I will include that in the follow-up email when I send out the recording link for the webinar. So let's go ahead and plan on doing that. Okay. Great. All right, and just a reminder, if you do have questions, feel free to use the Q&A box or the chat box. I guess one question I have for you, what do you do do you have tips or advice for what do you do if something does go wrong? Like what if a presenter doesn't show up? Or I know you talked a little bit about having, you know, these procedures in place ahead of time, but could you maybe give an example of like a time where something went wrong and how you fixed it?
Yeah, we've had plenty of those.
Yes.
So I'll tell you one year in 2008, we were at OSU a long time ago, you know, before we started this annual thing, and we had a blizzard that happened during the festival. And there were 28 people that had made it, and I had to stay in a hotel because I couldn't even get home. But we kept the festival going. Of course, you know, the 200 people couldn't come. But we still had it, you know, we had a very mini one, but yeah, that was fun. But also we have had times when the presenter didn't show up. That's happened a few times. And luckily we have a lot of board members and we say, can you teach a class? And they do it.
And they do it.
Yeah. So, you know, it's having those people on standby. And sometimes we've even had a participant once that did teach a class. So, you know, we do have a good membership and a good group of people that come that are willing to step up and help us out last minute. So I will say I've had people tell me that the time wasn't right or different things. You know, like one time I had a teacher say, I asked for an accompanist and I didn't get it. And so I do keep a copy of all of the agreements in a binder that I bring with me. I usually keep it in my trunk, but if I have to, I go to my car and I get it. And then I pull it out and say, nope, you did not ask for an accompaniment. You know, so always have those documents on hand. I have a lot of paperwork that I keep, unfortunately, but I do it for those reasons. So just have a lot of backup and, you know, it's just keeping those things in your mind. If something can always go wrong. So.
And it will.
Yeah.
And it will.
I think that's the first rule of event planning, like something will go wrong, right?
Right.
It's just how you handle it, and it sounds
Right.
like you guys definitely have a good kind of roll with the punches approach to it. You know, yeah, it's not the most ideal thing, but I think the key is don't panic, right? And you know, just kind of think calmly, take a step back, and it sounds like you had a lot of good advice to share there about specific ways to handle specific instances. So that was great. Thank you. I'm trying to think. It looks like we don't have any other questions. I think you went over it. That was a lot of information to take in. Event planning is definitely not for the faint of heart, as we said in our description here. So I'm sure that either one of you, you know, with your experience with this festival, 400 attendees that's no joke. That's an intense amount of people. So I'm thank you for taking the time to kind of share all of your I'm stumbling over my words. Share your expertise here. And we will make sure to include the timeline template. Jane, I'll work with you to get that.
Great.
And we will definitely post a recording of the webinar, like I said, on Monday by the end of the day. So you will have that as a resource too. And as you can see, Jane and Gabrielle's contact information is up here. If you have any other questions, I'm sure they would be happy to help you, or you know, at least point you in the right direction. And I think that is it for today. Thank you two so much for taking the time today. And thank you to everyone for listening in. Stay tuned to our social media channels for the announcement about next month's speaker. And have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye,
Thanks
everyone.
Bye. Bye.